Hi, everybody. We're going to get started in just a few minutes on our show today, on our class today about producing your own Keynotes slideshow. I am Kristen Ashley, and I will be with you in just a few minutes. Hi, everybody. I'm Kristen Ashley. I am the Media Lab assistant and one of the technology instructors at the Lake Forest Library. And I'm looking forward to meeting with you today. Thank you for coming. I'm going to have you continue to keep your microphones muted for the duration of the class for about 45 minutes, because we're going to have some questions at the end. If you had any questions for me, you want to write them in the chat column, I will be looking at the chat and try to answer questions as we go along, but I'll bet a lot of your questions will be answered. Keynote is a Mac-based program that comes with the Mac, and there is a great similarity to PowerPoint. Keynote is Mac's answer to PowerPoint, which is done by Microsoft, which is usually used on PCs. And I like to think that the Mac does so many things in a creative way that if you're working on a Mac, you're going to find this very familiar, and you might find some of the tools and the features to be more familiar to you than PowerPoint. So this is an alternative for you to be able to use this. And I find that this is good for doing slideshow presentations for all kinds of topics. For many years, I've used Keynotes to do slideshows for symphony orchestras. Of course, we're now in this stage of the pandemic where the concerts haven't come back yet, and things are kind of slow with that. So we're preparing to come back with developing some of these slideshows. So I've been working on some of these Keynotes programs the last few months. Keynotes is a program that you are able to access at no charge on your Mac, and you can either find it under your applications, or you can find it on the through Google if you just say Keynotes, and that will come up and you will be able to open it or download it. You can also use it on your iPhones or on your iPads. And this is a new mini iPad that I got, which is great. And this is what I often do my Keynotes programs on. Today, I'm going to do it on my computer. And the toolboxes look very much the same. Of course, you're dealing with a smaller screen. So some of the tools that we use may appear, on the bottom instead of the top if you're using your iPad. But you can use, as long as it's a Mac, you can use an iPhone, an iPad, or a laptop or a Macintosh computer to create your slideshow programs. I also got this new tool for Christmas, which is really neat. This is an Apple Pencil, and you can draw with your pencil on your iPad or your iPhone. And it's really great for adding special things or for working on artwork, things like that. But I thought I'd point that out because they do have the ability in Keynotes to be able to use the Apple Pencil to do some animation or to do some drawings, things like that. So those are some of the tools that I have together. But as long as you have a Macintosh of some sort and Keynotes, you should be able to follow along today. And I'm going to go on with my presentation here. In just a moment, we're going to let in another person, and everyone's got their mics muted, which is great because we're going to answer questions at the end, as I said. But working forward here, we're going to be able to be sharing a screen, and I'm going to show you some of the things in Keynotes that I find to be very useful. As I was explaining, I've done a lot of Keynotes presentations for symphony orchestras that are usually shown at the beginning of a concert when the pre-concert lecturer is speaking. And that is something that I found Keynotes to be very useful for. And it, as I explained before, it is an alternative to PowerPoint. But if you have the right connections and everything, you can your Macintosh, of course, just like a PC, and the slideshows work very much in a similar way. I also do a lot of lectures on nature because I'm a nature photographer, and I really enjoy showing birds and animals and talking about them. So today what I was going to do was do a Keynotes presentation that was based on my nature photos, and we'll be working with that moving along. The first thing you need to do is have a folder full of images that you'd like to use or have a general idea of where your images are. Keynotes will also allow you to do tables, and that includes pie charts and other kinds of tables. And it also has an animation feature so that you can make things move around on your screen as well. We'll probably be going over mostly basics today. So let's get started and look at our keynotes. So I'm going to share a screen with you, and I'll be in the corner of the screen talking with you, and we're going to put our reading glasses on and get to work here. So here is our shared screen, and I have just done a quick and easy little title page for us so that we could see today what this show is all about. Now I'm going to start with a new slide and give you all the information that you need about all the things that are on this toolbar here. We're just going to go over things one at a time so that you familiarize yourself with all these tools. And most of these tools are also available on the upper panel here, where you have your file and edit and insert, things like that. They've undergone some changes here, which is really interesting. In Keynotes over the last probably 10 years that I've been using it. They have streamlined it and they're continuously improving things. And for a free program on your Mac, this really is a powerful tool to create your own slides. Now on this slide, for instance, I have only a title page, but this is where all your other slides would appear. We will go over things like the view. We could look at the slide only. We can look at the navigator so we can see how we're working here. And one thing that I've found that you can do is to have yourself your slides can be in order or not. You can pull them in order after you do them. So after we get a few slides up, I'll show you how to do that too. And when we go to the next screen, we're going to see some other ways of editing your master slides. There's a lot here. Like many programs, there's a lot to go over, but you really just need to do the basics. And I think like any other program too, after you have a goal that you're trying to attain something, for instance, I'm trying to do a bulleted list, I'm trying to show a picture, I'm trying to put type on the picture, then you can learn more about each of these tools that will allow you to achieve your goals. One thing I wanted to point out, which is new in Keynote, relatively new anyway, probably the last year they did some of these improvements, is the rulers. And I really like working with rulers. That really helps me line things up because I often like to start with a blank page. My background is also in graphic design, so I like to be able to customize things and do things on my own. But I find the rulers to be very helpful. Now I'm going to hide these rulers, and you can do that, and you can just see that they're just not even there, but you can set them either in inches in your preferences here. You can set them in inches, centimeters, or points. I also like to work with picas, so I'm a little disappointed that they don't have picas available to us, but centimeters are very similar. Right now we'll do inches because most people are used to that. They have various things that you can choose here. I usually just keep all these on because it shows me some alignment guides, which previously, before rulers, this was all we had was some guides that would tell you when you were in the center. The guide would come up. And I'm going to have those guides in yellow because I'm going to be working with some black backgrounds, I believe. So there's definitely things that you can do up here as well to set things up. Briefly, our zoom here allows you to see things either at 100%, which doesn't allow me to see everything, 50%, or you can put in your own amount here. I believe it had 25%, or I'm going to make that just slightly bigger by going to my Command plus sign. This should make it bigger. Let's go to 50 because that shows pretty much the whole slide here. And then this is your play feature that you should be able to play the slideshow from the selected slide. There are also ways to transition from slide to slide, and that is something that we will do at the very end if we have time for that. But they have a lot of transitions which allow you to have one slide sort of fade into another, or one that starts in the beginning and blooms like a flower, things like that. I'm also going to put my rulers back on since we're in here. And we have also several things going on here. We have tables. We have things that you can do for charts. We have different charts available that you can put the coordinates in. For instance, if I wanted to make a pie chart, I could have that there. I could edit this data, and I could edit it by just putting in coordinates like you would in an Excel program. Or you can take out coordinates as well. You can do different kinds of charts, as you saw. There's bar charts, pie charts, scales, graphs, all of these options that you can work with. So if you're doing something for business, you can do it right in your slideshow rather than having to do it in a separate program and then bring it in. There's even some 3D features which are very effective in some presentations. So you could check those out as well, make it have a kind of drop shadow and a 3D effect to it, or an interactive. And I have not explored that as much, but that's an option that you can also get into. The text allows you a great deal of latitude in finding different elements here. We have the ability to change any of the text to any of the fonts that are on your computer. Right now we're in Helvetica Neue. I'm going to leave it at that for now, but we have a lot more we can choose from. We can change the size. We can change the weight. Say I wanted this to be a little bit smaller. I can go here, or I can manually put a coordinate in by double clicking and typing on it, so I can get exact point sizes as well. And we could change that to bold or medium or light, anything we'd like. We could change it to different script fonts, different things like that. And your most recent fonts usually come up at the top here on a Macintosh. So that's how type can be used. It can also allow you to either use the italic version of the font, which is here, or you could make it look italic by using this. Many programs have that. It's very similar to Microsoft Word. So you would find a lot of these options as well. If you'd like to underline things, you could. There's a strike through text. There's different advanced options that you can go to with character spacing. It really gives you a lot more latitude than we have had in times past. Character styles can be like a style sheet so that you can set it up for repeating elements. You can change the text color here by clicking on it and either clicking bright limited colors that they have chosen for you, or you can pull up the color wheel here. And in the color wheel, that allows you to be very specific about what color you might like. Now I've made some colors down here that I found to be useful, and you can see where that appears with our little target here on the colors, or you can just click around and try and find something that you like. So at this point, I'm just going to change that to red so that that shows us where our color is. And we can also make things either flush left, centered, flush right, or justified. And I'm going to keep this centered for right now. And we will go on down to this box, which I have a little text box that just appeared here. Let me get rid of those. Those are just tiny little boxes that I just created. There we go. And all you need to do if you want to do that is click on something and you can delete it. And you can delete it with the delete key, and you can get things back with my favorite keyboard command, which is Command Z. Command Z is undo, and it lets you undo several steps, but especially the step that you just did. So that's very, very handy in any kind of work that you're doing on a Mac. Command Z will get that back. So for instance, I deleted it, but oops, I didn't really want to. So I do a Command Z and it comes right back in the same place that it was. You can do vertical text here. You can also do some spacing. And you can get to the spacing by doing these lines down here. I was trying to adjust my view of all of you because that was blocking off part of my text here. So that's why I just clicked off for a minute here, but I'm back. So you can have different line spaces, exact. You can put space before a paragraph. Say I have this selected and I wanted to move that down. I would open that up, and what it's doing is moving the Lake Forest Library around, giving us a little space here, which looks nice. So I could just have my name on a separate line. I could do the same with after paragraph. And they have the bulleted lists as well, which allow you to do numbered letters, images, bullets. All this is very familiar, just in a different format, but it looks very much like something like Microsoft Word or InDesign, which are great layout programs which allow you to create documents and files that have both text and images in them. And that's what this Keynote is going to do as well. So that's a little about text. We're going to go back and review that again in a few minutes, but I also want to show you shapes. Shapes have can be basic. Excuse me. You can have geometry shapes. You can color these shapes as well. You can add animals. You can find a little bird here. This looks like it's a blue jay. So we could, again, go back to our color wheel and see if we can make this a blue one. I am in the images here. So let me go back to styles. Color fill. Sorry, I was in the wrong. I was still in text there. My error. So let's do that again. Let me grab one of those shapes. So let's grab this one, the blue jay. That up there. You can also use these handles on any of the boxes, whether they're images or text, and drag them, and they will constrain proportions. You don't have to hold down any other keys. You can make this really giant, like a big dinosaur blue jay here. You can make it a different size. So we'll keep them that size. Now you could choose the color that they've chosen here. Or here again, you have several options of working with color when you're in your style panel, which usually deals with shapes, images, things like that. The text, of course, just to review, has your text color under text, but we're in style here. So we could choose a different color blue if we wanted. We could do something more twilight, indigo, that looks good. You can change it to lighter or darker. Here you can do the opacity here, which is a nice feature, which a lot of these features are also present in programs like Photoshop, and so that if you, or Illustrator, and so if you're working with colors and opacity, things like that, you can really do some fun creative effects. So that's our color fill, which we'll move on for there. We could do a drop shadow or a border. We could do a drop shadow, which is not really showing up because it's on the black background here. A border, a line, a picture frame, different ways of adding. See, I wanted to add a border to this. Let's see if that would add a kind of little square border, but it's black, so we will want to change it to white so that it shows up, and there's your border. And that can be used for text as well. We can use a reflection. We can use the opacity here. We can adjust the opacity. We can also add a title or a caption or not. That's a little bit more about shapes, but they have a lot of shapes that you can choose from that should be helpful in helping you if you're trying to do simple, large demonstrations. Say you want to do something about an announcement for daylight savings time or something, you have a clock here, all kinds of things. That always interests me, that they have so many different features that you can choose from. Here, something with acting, or something if I was doing something for the symphony, I could have a little piano and things like that. Science, people's places. So lots of clip art that you can use here as well for your shows. So we have our little mascot there, our Blue Jay. Our media allows you to pull media in to your slideshow from any other element that you're looking to include in your slideshow. And that would be, say we went to photos here, it would come up with different photos, it would come up with any music that I had uploaded, which I don't, or it can come up with movies. Now, sometimes this takes a moment to snap in. I have a couple of short videos of music, or my pet parrot here, which is very cute. If I wanted to put that into my slideshow, I would just click on it. So you can embed videos and things like that. Another way to get images into your slideshow is something that we're going to go over in just a moment when I get us a new theme and a new slideshow. We're going to kind of go back to the beginning here, but right now we're just going over the text tools and the image tools and the different features that are available in our toolbar. This whole thing is called a toolbar. This over here are known as a panel because it has different panels for different things. We can also arrange things, send things from back to front. Say I had two of these Blue Jays and I wanted to have one in back of another one. Well, I would do a Command C and a Command V and make myself another Blue Jay, and even go to the fact that maybe we'll make it look more like a cardinal. And then we could go to arrange and I could send that to the back or bring it to the front. So this panel is very useful for bringing things forward like that. It's also for alignment. If we wanted to make sure that this was in the center, you see how it's scooted over just a little bit so that we make sure that that is all still in the center. And we can put these birds next to each other and also change things here with, I have always click constrain proportions so that if I do change the size, you can change it both ways by height or width, but you see the proportions are constrained. If you don't have this clicked, it will go out of whack here and you'll have a really tall, skinny bird, or you'll have something that is not following the proportions, and it'll be all stretched out. There's another part on here I wanted to show you while I am in here. Arrange the format, animate, and you notice these panels come and go depending on what you're using. If I were using the text panel, we would get that back by going to the text. What I had clicked here was to animate something. So we're going to leave it in format. I'm going to go back to here and just show you that if you just to go back to something, that's how you would get those panels back. So format is the main one that we will be working on. That's the one that shows style, text, and arrangements, which we just went over. Animate is a whole new thing, which I really would like to try. If we have some time at the end, we'll try that, but it might even be able to make these birds kind of leapfrog over each other or something, which would be fun. Your document setting is giving you a setting and telling you that you can change themes here. Now we can change themes right in here, or we can start with a new theme. And if you click that, here's your themes that come up. So say I wanted a new theme for the presentation. This is going to be very similar to what you get when you do a new presentation. And we will go over this in just a minute. The themes and the templates are very useful, and they also allow you to make your own customizations. Every template you can customize. You can just delete something if you don't like it. If it's got text on it, you can change the text. You can even delete the text. You could put your own images in. A lot of them have place marker images, which will tell you how big they can be if you're using the template. And we're going to work on that in just a minute here too. At the very end of my slideshows, after I've done the transitions, which is another effect that we will go over, you have slideshow settings that will allow you to say, I was doing this at the symphony and I was running this during the pre-concert lecture, and I wanted to loop my slideshow because I wanted it to go over and over and play the 10 slides that I would have, so that the people coming into the lecture can see that, can get an idea of what they're going to be seeing that day, a little bit about our guest artist, a little bit about the conductor, things like that. And the loop slideshow just starts the slideshow again from beginning to end. And then I usually check these at the end and restart show if idle for 15 minutes, so that, you know, when the people are coming into the lecture, that they can it will be restarted every 15 minutes. It won't just go to sleep. Presentation type is going to usually be normal. And here's something that used to be a lot more important than it is right now. Almost everybody has television sets and computers that accommodate a widescreen, a ratio of 16:9. There's an old standard that was 4:3, which was very popular for many years, on regular ratio for a TV screen, for instance. But most people have widescreen. So I just use it for that. You can also apparently set a custom slide size. That may be useful for something if you're just going to have people looking at it on the iPhone, for instance, something like that. But we're going to leave that set at widescreen. And if for some reason other people are using your presentation, you may want to require a password to open. I usually just leave that unchecked though. So we've gone over most of the things at the top. There are also comments so that you can add comments if you're passing it along to someone to collaborate, so that, for instance, they could write a comment if you were doing a table of some sort of pie chart or something and they needed to check it and they said, oh, this number isn't quite right. You can do a little sticky note and add it right to it. And you can say, you know, add one more bird. how's that? Something like that. And then that would be done. And then when you get your slideshow back with the comments on it, you can make that change. And then you can just delete the comment and it doesn't show in your final slideshow. Now what we're going to do is go up to start a brand new one. And we're going to go to Keynote. We're going to go to this bar up here and just say new. You can also do a Command N. And this is what we saw when I was also working on the presentations here. And I had the ability to change my presentation theme. When you're doing a Keynote presentation, a couple of the things you want to keep in mind are who is my audience and what is the purpose of my presentation. Now, my audience for this presentation that I usually am going to put together is people that are either fellow nature photographers, or they are very creative people, or they're people that enjoy wildlife and want to know more about wildlife. So that would say to me that a specific theme might be more creative. And I can choose from all these different themes. You can either choose over here and see the recent ones we used. And I kind of like to either start with a basic black or a basic white because I'm putting pictures over it. And these are the very basic ones that you can really customize yourself. And I never actually end up using these exactly the way they look, which is white with black type or black with white type, because I like to add a lot of graphics and things like that. But the templates that they have available for you have many different pages. This is only the first page that you're looking at here. So we're looking at things to pick out a presentation that might work for my purposes. Now this one shows a photo essay. I could use something like that. I could use something that has a black background, and this one already has an animal on it, and that looks pretty good. And I could use it with this type, or I can change my type. But you might find just a typeface that just works for you, and the work's been done for you, and you could pick a template, and you could go on from there. We have our bold presentations, which really stand out. There's again an animal here that might be something I might consider too. I'm kind of looking at these, thinking about my audience and thinking about my purpose and deciding what I might take and be able to customize a little bit more on my own. So there's some very nice templates that they've already done for you. Now here's something that would be very handy to the artists out there, that you can do a whole presentation of your work and it becomes an online portfolio. And this is a very useful way to use Keynotes because it's very creative already, and you can customize it to show exactly what you've done, whether it's your collection of photographs or it's a collection of perhaps it's a collection of genealogical things or a family album or something like that. This one would look nice for that, a photo portfolio. So you can kind of cross over these themes and think outside the box, kind of redirect your ideas to what you're looking for. We have craft, which looks, like it would be perfect for if you're doing a cooking keynotes. And you can also share these Keynote programs with other friends and relatives. These textured ones are really nice for doing those family albums. I really like this parchment background. If you have those old sepia tone photos from the early 1900s or up through 1940, say, these really show up against it, or some kind of historical presentation, things like that. But I think you get the idea of how to, pick your theme and your audience, and you can find something that just starts everything off just right. What I'd like to do is go back to minimal, and we're going to pick this showroom because it's got a large photo to begin with. You know what? I'm going to go to, I was just looking at our time here too, and I don't want to lose out on being able to tell you some of the important things about the presentation. So let's just go to the recent basic black, which is what I used before. And we will choose that as though we were representing something else. So we're going to represent something different than just being a title show right now. Now, this one, for instance, I'm going to start my show with putting my own type in, my presentation rather, and let's see if we just call it something, animals, I guess is a good one, and say you wanted a subtitle here. You can also go here and notice, let's see, which one was it? If you want the title or you don't want a title, you can also use a caption for different things, and put my name down here and go from there. Now this looks nice, but it's kind of empty. I'd like to bring something else in it. And let's just make that our main title and take this out, because I'm going to be using birds as well. So I don't want to just call it animals. So you see how my cursor is changing here. This cursor is allowing you to either delete the type that is in the box, or if it turns into this box, you also should be able to just delete it here. And again, you see the handles that you have that allow you to move things up and down.
I'm only seeing the original produce a Keynote slideshow that you have. I'm not seeing what you're typing.
Okay. Let me put it in here. Let me reshare the screen. Thank you for telling me that. Let me get back to that a moment. And we will share screen and we will go back here. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm sorry, I didn't switch the screen. I think you're on it now. So here we are, and it looks very similar to what we had a few minutes ago. So hopefully we didn't miss too much. And that is the ad slide would be the next thing I would do. Well, I was going to put a picture in here. Let's do that. Just wanted to show you again real briefly about text and how you can manipulate it yourself. Let's just make this a little bit bigger. And you'll see it will go off onto another line if your text box isn't highlighted here. Then you just pull it out so that the whole thing should show. And right now I'm going to pull on something from my screen. And I don't believe that you will see this, but until I drag it on there. So give me one moment here. We will go down to the artwork that I have set aside here. I thought I had a single image for us that I can just pull over from my links. See if this one appears. So there, I just pulled something from my desktop. And that was a piece of artwork that I've done. It's a feather painting with a raven on it. So I'm going to be mixing some of my paintings with some of my photography with this presentation that I'm doing. So I think that would be a striking one. I have already outlined this in Photoshop and brought it over. There are ways that you can adjust your artwork slightly in here as well. It does show you under styles that you could make it have a different kind of filter on it. You could have a border on it, things like that. So every image that you do allows you to have more options here under your style for your image. You could make your own outline here too, or your size by using the edit mask. That might be a little bit more advanced as well, but it's something that that it changes into a dotted line here, and you can then just use part of the mask. Say I just wanted to use the head of the raven, I would put a mask around it, and voila, I have now gotten only the head. And so there are some things you can do here if you don't have a Photoshop type of program. Once you're in the slideshow, you can change some of these things. There's also some nice adjustments that they have here. You could change the exposure a little bit. Say you wanted to adjust the gamma a little bit, and I don't want to blow out the sun that's in the background. This is a painting I did. It's called Raven Steals the Sun, about how the raven was so black that it could fly into the sun. It's a Pacific Northwest Native American story that the raven flies into the darkness and brings back the sun to the people on Earth, which I think is a wonderful story. And I like to tell stories like that about the animals while I'm doing this as well. So say I might want to add a caption to this or something like that too. You can also saturate this, that really saturates it. You can also desaturate it so that you get a black and white picture. This might be very useful if you are trying to have all black and white photos, for instance. You can change them all right here. You don't have to necessarily do it in Photoshop. There's some enhancements, and then there's this familiar levels and adjustments panel, which is very familiar to people that are working in Photoshop a lot. And this is really a lot of tools. And in fact, I could see bringing in some photos and just being able to do the levels rather than doing all the prep work. You can do it right here in Keynote. So this becomes very powerful with their tools here. We have different exposures that you can use: saturation, contrast, sharpness. You can never get a blurry picture to look really sharp, but you can make it a little bit sharper here. Temperature and tint. You know, you can change things to more green or more blue, and the histogram up here shows you different things. You can check your levels, make sure that you're doing many of the simple things that we were doing here with exposure and saturation. So you can reset the image there as well. So I've been able to do a lot with that image right away. What I'd like to do now is add a slide and show you the next slide in my presentation. Could be any of these slides to begin with. And a lot of these are already set up for you. So that makes things very easy if you're trying to decide what you want your next title to be. So say I wanted to do this one. Now, instead of this picture, I'd like to use one of my own. So I'm going to click on this little photo box at the bottom here. And we can see if I have one of my pieces of artwork here. Let's see if I can get that in. And if I double click, that should go in. It's a JPEG. All right, that one's not coming in. Let me do a drag. We will drag that over and put it in. And that might be something that is one of our pictures here. This one, I like to talk about the meaning of the owls, and the owl in general means wisdom. It represents the moon, and it's a feminine symbol, which is kind of neat. But right now, I think what I'd like to do is do a mask and just get the owl. So now I have the owl here, and you can see these guides are kind of popping up for you. So I'm also going to turn my rulers back on so that I can see those. I had set them in inches originally so that they're coming up, so that if I really can see things moving and see how I want to center that, I would then call this one the owl and maybe give some of the meanings of the owl. Of course, everyone knows it's wisdom. And you could tell some things about the owl now too. For instance, this one was a screech owl, and this owl was in my neighborhood in Lake Bluff, which a couple of years ago was living inside this hollow tree. They're pretty unusual around this area though, so I think the little owl went on to greener pastures because it could not find another little owl. But you can see that I could then add another slide, which would be very similar, and find a new image to bring over. And we could bring over this squirrel or this deer. And the squirrel is busyness with purpose. This is always fun. I always tell some stories about the animals too when I do this. I'm going to edit the mask for this though, so we just have the picture of the squirrel, which is very cute. And then when I say, and you can see, you can either make it bigger or smaller in the mask itself. You can crop in here, a lot of Photoshop capabilities right in here. And I will say done for that. And this one is the squirrel. Also represent busyness because the squirrels have to get their provisions every fall, things like that. And you can tell a little bit about the squirrel and how it has different meanings in different cultures, how rodents in general behave. A lot of the things I talk about are the behavior and the characteristics of the animal. This happens to be one of our fun black squirrels that we have around this area. So I would say a fun fact, maybe like black squirrels are actually gray squirrels. They're not a whole different species. They're just a different color. And this one had this nice kind of cinnamon colors on its tail, and it was getting a welcome peanut in the winter, which was fun. So you can see how I can add slides as well. Say I wanted one photo to be an entire different element here. I'm going to put in a quote that I like. And this one is talking about, it's a quote by Abraham Lincoln, actually, which was, I am in favor of human rights as well as animal rights on that. Also has a lot to do with caring for the environment. I have another one that's a really good one. We'll put that in with the, there it is. I like this one a lot. One touch of nature makes the whole world kin. Now, I have done these in Photoshop to begin with. So a lot of times I'm going to want to redo these. These were done several years ago when you didn't have all the capabilities to put the type in that you do now in Keynotes. And so on that note, I think we're going to see if there are any questions here and follow up with closing up our class for the day. I'm going to go one more time and show you all the different things that you can do up top as well. If you just look up here, you'll be able to see that you can set your password here, just like we did on the other theme there. We can change the theme. And I'll make a note, it says save the theme. It say I wanted to do a series of these and I wanted to use this theme. I could save the theme for future, and your Keynotes programs do save in the cloud on the Mac. If you have the iCloud, it saves it into the iCloud. And it's pretty easy to find. Let's go here. We go to the cloud drive. And I'm going to stop sharing that and go on to the share screen so I can show you where that other one was. Here we are in the Finder, and that's showing our keynotes in the background, but you should be able to see that now, that there's a number of different things that are in here. And here's a couple of keynotes presentations that I've already done that are saved here under Keynote. Some of them are just right here underneath, just a presentation. Should be in the keynotes, but that's how you can find your presentations again so that you can open them again. And then at this point, I'm going to see if there have been any questions, and did anyone have any questions about what we just went over here? You can unmute your microphone if you have a question.
Can you save it someplace other than the cloud? Obviously you can. Can you save the presentation?
Okay, let me make sure I'm sharing the right. There we go. Stop share. Okay. And I'm sorry, what was your question?
Can you save it someplace other than the cloud if you want to, just to keep it on your hard drive or whatever?
Yeah, you can save it somewhere else too. You can also duplicate it, just put it on your desktop. I like to do that a lot because then I always know where it is, but yeah. The iCloud has made things so much more manageable in the last few years too, but it's a default that it goes to the iCloud, but you can save it somewhere else.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, well, I hope that I went over enough that you can get started on this, and that I've got you thinking about what kind of creative projects you could all do. You can think of things for trips that you've been on, especially a good time to work on keynotes presentations is in the winter when you're going through everything from your last couple of years or the last couple holiday seasons or your family albums, things like that. A lot of things you can do on your own too. It doesn't have to be just a work program where you're showing the pie charts of how much revenue has come in, things like that. That's why I like to think of keynotes as sort of more creative, and it is specialized for the Mac. Mm-hmm. But you should be able to play these keynotes presentations too. Let me go back to that real quick. That's one thing that I did not show you, and we will see if I can go on to that. Yeah, I don't think it's going to let me go back to that. That play button is the button that it turns into a full screen, and that is when you're going to be able to do that. I'm really sorry, my cordless mouse just decided to go out of whack here, so I have to charge that up. First rule, giving a class, make sure everything's charged, make sure your phone is charged, all that. But you should be able to play the program just fine. And as I had showed you previously, things about looping the program, about the transitions, which will probably be part 2 of the keynotes programs that I'll do in a few months. But I'd like to tell you about the Media Lab and the status that we're in right now. We have one-to-one appointments that I can do with you at your home, just like right now I'm at my home and I'm Zooming with you all, and you're all in your homes. If you have a Macintosh at home, or you have a scanner you want to use or something like that, I may be able to help you with that. Certainly I can help you with programs, any of the Adobe programs, any kind of Photoshop, and my colleague Patrick, who's also a Media Lab assistant and technology instructor, is also very well versed in all kinds of audio. audio is something you can also add to keynotes as well as video. So that's something that probably would be in a more advanced class as well. I'm going to make a note of that, so I do it with the transitions too. But Patrick also does a lot of things on WordPress, different things like that. And the way that you can sign up for a one-to-one appointment with us is that Monday afternoons from 12 to 4, Patrick is available. And Tuesday afternoons from 12 to 4, I am available. And we can both have a lot of crossover in what we do, but if you have, I especially do more creative things as far as graphic design and photography, things like that. Patrick is very, very well versed in video and audio and WordPress as well. Like we can both do things, but if you have a special thing that you'd like to talk to us about, go online to the library website and look for Media Lab. And we have a Media Lab email there. It's medialab@lakeforestlibrary.org. At this point, I think I'm going to have to put you into the calendar. When we were open, we were able to make appointments online, but at this point, I think it'd be best if you send us an email and say, are you open on, do you have an opening from 1 to 2 next Tuesday afternoon? Just give me 24 hours notice and tell me a little bit about what you want to accomplish during the hour. And I'd be happy to help you with your creative projects or with any technical issues that you might be having at home, aside from really fixing something, but just, how do I get the best use out of the camera on my iPhone or something like that. Those are all things that we can help with. And we would be using your equipment and I would be sharing a screen to show you. So
these one-to-ones are via Zoom?
So the one-to-one, right. And if you want me, again, my name's Kristen Ashley, and look for, and just write us an email and say, I'm looking to work on this project and I'd like to know if Kristen has an opening. And I look at those emails every day. So I will be able to put you in. And if that opening is filled, I'll get back to you with some other options.
Okay.
So the email would be the best way, probably more so than phone, of course, because, we just have our home phones and everything, but we do have the library email, and that will be able to answer all your questions. So I look forward to hopefully spending some more time with each of you and being able to move ahead with your creative projects. And I thank you for being with us today. And please do note that we are not open at the present time, but we do have grab and go. You can pick up your books for your winter reading. I'm also going to be doing an Instagram on January 18th at 2:00 in the afternoon. That will be on our recordings as well. This is also a recording, which you should be able to access on the lakeforestlibrary.org website. And the Instagram program that I'm doing is about finding good historical fiction to read during this winter season. So I hope you might turn into that and look for some of my nature photography classes or some of Patrick's classes about WordPress and giving a home video party, a Zoom video party. He's got some great classes going on too. So we're just trying to keep in touch with you through Zoom during this difficult time. And we look forward to seeing all of you again in the library really soon. Okay, I'm going to sign off. Thanks, folks. Bye-bye.